Ladies and gentlemen, today I present you with a very unique review of Resident Evil 5. You see, when this launched back in 2009, I refused to play this game. Resident Evil 5 represented the fear of survival horror games. Gone was the darkness of a creepy mansion. Vanished was the feeling of being alone. My favourite survival horror series was becoming Call of Duty with a focus on action. So I, and many others, boycotted this game. However, it has been 16 years and Capcom has been back with survival horror for a while now. I dare say it might be safe for me to finally play this game, and it's given me a very unique perspective I would love to share with you all. This is not a retrospective review for me because I'm a first time player in 2025 and I beat the game as well. So grab yourself a warm coffee, enjoy a Jill sandwich, and get comfortable as I share everything right and everything wrong with Resident Evil 5 and answer the question, was I wrong to boycott this game in the first place? Oh, and a quick shout out to this channel's members. I appreciate your support so much. It really does make a difference to me and encourages me to keep pushing forward. Also, just a reminder that all members get access to these unique emotes I made and can be used in the comment section below. With that said, God bless you all, and let's get to it. So let's start this video off with some positive things and unexpected experiences. The first is the game is fun. Surprisingly fun. I did not want to stop playing. Anyone who has played Resident Evil 4 knows exactly what to expect as far as controls go, and even how the new enemy interact with you and the environment. You will once again run away from angry mobs, leap through windows, and try to trip them by shooting their legs. Now Chris, the guy you will be playing as, is jacked in this game and is not afraid to use his muscle. I had way too much fun uppercutting people and sending them flying, stomping their heads or even snapping their necks if I managed to get their backs during combat. This is a very fun action game. A terrible Resident Evil game, and I will elaborate more on that when we get to the negative part of this video, but for now I'm only discussing what I enjoyed or was surprised by. You know what else surprised me? I really enjoyed the bright sun, and I can't believe I'm even saying that. Yep, super old school survival horror fan who missed fixed camera angle Resident Evil games, and the same guy who protested against Resident Evil 5 for 16 years is saying the sun-drenched parts were actually good. Let me explain. The game starts with you slowly walking around the village. The villagers have not turned on you yet, and you were drenched in sunlight. A bleeding yellow that caused very strong shadows. That was the unexpected variable to this game. Yes, nighttime is always more scary than daytime, but the sun here was unforgiving. Like it would cook me if I stayed still for too long. What really made the sun appear more threatening were the villagers. Last time we were in Europe, and this time we are in Africa, meaning the residents this time were all black, and turns out it worked really well in this setting. The black skin created clever contrast around the bleeding sun and the imposing shadows they cast. This was all extra effective because the graphics really were amazing for the time, and even at max settings on PC today, hold up much better than expected. This dark-skinned trend was seen on the majority of monsters, and it made things extra scary. Frankly speaking, it was great. This artistic choice for the sake of the story's locations would not have worked with other games. Dark-skinned zombies in a dark alleyway or hallway just wouldn't have anywhere near the effect it has in Resident Evil 5. You needed that relentless sun to create the contrast, and I think it worked great together. Also, a special shout out to the liquor. Yep, our friend from Resident Evil 2 does make a comeback, and it's during a darker moment of the game where there is actually some intensity building up. Actually felt scary for a moment even. Moving on, Chev, your new partner in crime, is a great shot with whatever gun you give her. She doesn't just stand around doing nothing, and since she is a PC, she often realized when enemies were around even before I did and started shooting. Player 2 can play as her as well, by the way, because there is a split screen mode, the game does support it. The developers also did a fantastic job of making inventory management between both players a mostly smooth experience. It was easy enough to share items back and forth due to the ability to have both Chris and Chev's inventory pop up at the same time, letting me keep track of what both of us have. This also meant I used Chev as a portable storage unit, making her hold whatever I didn't want. Speaking of inventory, something unexpected was how the game's store was managed. There was no seller like in Resident Evil 4, something I feel was a missed opportunity. I loved that guy in Resident Evil 4. So instead, at the start of each section or whenever you died, you would gain access to a shop. It felt very organized. You would use this space to buy items, brand new weapons, and also do weapon upgrades. You also sold treasure you found and, like in game, decided which of the two characters were holding what. You could even buy multiple of the same weapon so both characters had access. Quick access of your favorite items and weapons was also done very well and very smartly implemented. So pressing the up, down, left or right button on your controller would immediately equip whatever item took up that space in your inventory. For example, I used up for my handgun, left for my shotgun, and right for any throwables like grenades. It created a nice familiarity where I memorized and got used to switching between weapons really fast, not having to pause the game just to do that sometimes, and other times it was faster just to switch to another weapon than trying to reload. I appreciated the amount of control I had overall, and there was a lot of room for flexibility. For example, you could buy Chev the big guns and keep her loaded at all times, or maybe heavily invest in one weapon because you want to keep all the cool toys to yourself. That's what I did. I stuck her with a handgun but kept upgrading it so every shot she did counted. I also invested in a melee weapon that electrocuted on impact, letting me save on ammo so then I can enjoy Chris treating the monsters like he was in a wrestling ring. The uppercut never got boring for me. Enemy variety is also noteworthy and worth highlighting. There were a lot of different types, and depending on where you were will change what items, shield or clothing they had. It really had that old adventure feel of getting a peek at a different culture, since these innocent villagers were just regular people in their home country before getting dragged into this horror show. Just like what happened in Resident Evil 4. Friendly reminder, by the way, the negative part of the video will happen shortly. This isn't all just one-sided compliments. And you're going to want to listen to the negative part, believe me. Moving on, there is great endgame support as well. So when you beat the main story, you unlock Mercenary Mode, which is a fun mini game that places you in different locations as you try to survive an endless swarm of enemies. There's items you collect for a better score, as well as chaining kills for combo bonuses. Initially you start with only Chris and Chev, but as you play the game more, you unlock up to another 8 characters. The good old days, ladies and gentlemen, when you could just unlock more game modes and features without having to pay extra for it. That is all here. A new Game Plus mode is also unlocked where you start again, but carry over your weapons and upgrades from your previous game. You also unlock the ability to play as Chev, which I think is pretty cool, and also brand new costumes for both her and Chris. You get 5 in total for each character, and really do make the characters look different. If you want to look casual, if you want to look professional, if you want to look mean, or if you want to look SMEXY, you are covered. Personally, I absolutely loved the Chev costume. She looks awesome in my humble opinion. Another surprising aspect is even after this game is easily the most action-focused Resident Evil game, it also shares the most story. The notepads you find while playing this game are extremely detailed, and I often found myself lost and just stopping and reading them, becoming more and more absorbed in the story. When you beat the game, you even get a whopping 44 pages unlocked that literally explains the whole story of Resident Evil up until that point. Like everything, even the name of the guy who built the iconic mansion. Lots of unlockables and collectibles as well. So again, things you don't see these days. And if a Resident Evil 5 remake happened, don't expect those unlockables to be free. Okay, so I had fun with this action game. But it's time to discuss the negative, and yeah, we got plenty of those as well. By the way, please consider subscribing if you are still enjoying my content, and consider even becoming a channel member. A few extra bucks goes a long way for me, and you get those extra emotes I made as well. Alright, time for me to complain, and first, I need to address the initial elephant in the room. Was I right to boycott this game? Was this the action game that would take Resident Evil and survival horror in the direction that we don't want, or was I completely wrong? Well, turns out I was right. Yeah, this is a fun action game, but it's a terrible survival horror game and barely a Resident Evil game. So firstly, the co-op was a bad choice for a survival horror franchise. She's there every single step of the way. You never get a chance to feel lonely or vulnerable. She saves you a lot, has the ability to inject you when you're on the verge of death infinitely. She's always there. Also, as good as a shot as Chev is with the gun, she gets in the way. Often, a lot. You can't run through her, so when you need to suddenly turn around and run away, she often physically blocks you, resulting in your death. This happened to me a lot of times. She follows real closely, and if you turn around and try to run, you're running into her. She also won't combine herbs for you either, so if she's holding a red herb and a green herb, you have to get her to manually transfer them to you yourself, so then you could combine them before giving it back. Another example of Chev just being more of a nuisance than anything else is there are bombs you can pick up and you can put on the floor, so then as the enemy approaches, bomb goes boom, and takes out the enemy. What could go wrong? Well, Chev, the nugget, she will pick up the bomb that you just put down because she will treat it as a brand new weapon, as a brand new item. She'll take it, so I'm continuously trying to put bombs on the floor and she's picking them up and I couldn't get her to stop. It was annoying. Now, while for the first half of the game still feels like Resident Evil 4, after this point it starts to change. You will come across forced combat where you will have to push your back against the wall while humans shoot at you. And you have to shoot back. There is no chance for melee or other combinations. There are dedicated shooter sections, and there's even parts where the enemy is holding a minigun or rocket launcher. These are clearly Capcom's attempt at turning Resident Evil into a Call of Duty type experience, as they were really eager to do at the time. They've publicly actually spoken about. That's not a crazy fan theory. I did not enjoy the many shootouts I had to do in this game. It felt forced and it did not belong. Quick time events were also there. They were very annoying. Thankfully, in the version I had of the game, I could turn this off, or it was very minimalistic. But they were still very annoying all the same, and if they do a remake, they need to remove that. Now, slight spoiler warning that doesn't really impact the game, but you have been warned, I guess. So the last two Wesker encounters are just terrible. You had to fight him and do things in very specific orders, in specific ways, otherwise he could not be beaten, and it was broken as well. Even after you figured out what to do, sometimes things didn't detect and you had to die on purpose to restart. These encounters didn't feel natural, where I used everything at my disposal plus my weapons, but instead ignoring him while I tried to figure out the pre-approved method for his destruction each time. Even though the action was turned up so much in this game, the controls were still janky as well, so that didn't help. Now, Resident Evil 5 is a fun action game. It is a terrible Resident Evil game though. This should have been a standalone IP, and it did do everything we old school fans feared. It completely got rid of fixed camera angles. Fixed camera angles were dead, that's never come back. Survival horror was completely replaced with co-op action, and we wouldn't see Capcom return to a proper horror-like experience on a AAA budget until 2017 with Resident Evil 7. To put into context, Resident Evil lost its way for 8 whole years. Much longer if you're counting the gap between, say, Code Veronica, which was released in 2000, meaning fans of survival horror had to wait 17 years. Special mention of a smaller Resident Evil series does need to be mentioned, and that is Resident Evil Revelations, which launched on the 3DS in 2012. That was a massive hit. That was Capcom's little test to see, do fans still want survival horror? And that was a booming success. The Nuggets had to test it out. We've been telling them for years, make Resident Evil game. They wouldn't listen. They do a little test on the 3DS with Resident Evil Revelations, and guess what? Everyone loved it. Capcom was surprised while the world was not. But when Capcom launched Resident Evil 7, with the help of the PlayStation VR 1, it's very easy for people to forget that a large part of Resident Evil 7's success was the impact of people when they tried just the demo. On the PSVR 1, everyone was screaming. Horror was back. We are now looking forward to Resident Evil Requiem or Resident Evil 9. Once again, a single player experience with more of a focus on the scares. However, the devs did reveal that the game started off as an online experience. Capcom unfortunately will always try to push this series in a direction it does not belong. So stay on guard and only support the games you want to see more of, not just because the title Resident Evil is before it. Now, before signing off, how would you like a Resident Evil 5 remake, and what changes or improvements would you like to see if they made that happen? With that said, God bless you all, take care, and I'll see you all for the next one. Alright, bye bye.